expired. Honorable Sangweni.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Honorable Souls, you are next.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. O'Sullivan. Sorry with the twisting and the turning there.
Chair, sorry, I must understand. Sorry, Sangweni.
What happened?
Chair, I must understand. Why am I next?
Bangazita has made an arrangement with Honorable Sangweni to speak now.
And
Thank
then
you.
then it should just mean he follows and then I go after him.
After her is you.
That's not the order, Chair. I'm after IFP. And Chair didn't speak about or with me about that arrangement.
It can be IFP now if you want, Honorable Sol.
Sorry?
I can be IFP. You know, we're one government, all of us, me, you, IFP.
With respect, Honorable Sangweni. Chairperson, I'm an equal member here. If there's arrangements made, include me. Don't just tell me from the bench. As a result, this wasn't discussed with me. So I will follow through on the proper rotation. It's IFP, then it's me. I must be included in such arrangements. I can't be coming here and just here and I'm told. Doesn't work like that, Chair. Show me respect also.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, Mbangazita, for allowing me to go in your spot. Good afternoon, Mr. O'Sullivan. I'm going to start here because I mean I've heard you raising this issue with a number of the members just on the terms of reference. So the terms of reference require us to investigate any related claims regarding corruption, financial or otherwise, bribery, misuse of public resources within SAPS or any other institution, and then evaluating the extent of misconduct, unethical behavior by members of SAPS and any other relevant individuals or institution. So I need you to understand, you know, our engagement in that light. You testified here, and I think from what you've heard coming out from the members, there's obviously a lot of concern about what is perceived as your infiltration of the intelligence services. And sorry, the SAPS and intelligence services. So tell me, this process, yesterday you were asked about your appointment as a police reservist. What was the process for the appointment of a reservist? You indicated the husband to your PA saw you, but what was the actual process?
So let's just pick it up from my memory. My secretary suggested I should meet with the husband, which I did. And he told me that I would have to go and do training. I would have to fill in forms and they would carry out the criminal record check on me. And if I passed the training, I would become a police reservist. And that's what I did. And when I became a police reservist, my initial activity as a police reservist was crime prevention, which is...
May you please get closer to the microphone?
Sorry. My initial work as a police reservist was crime prevention. And then, not Major Edwards, but another person, I can't remember his name, and I think he was a colonel. It's a long time ago. He said to me, actually, there's a course coming up, you can go and do some training to become a detective.
Okay, so I want to come back to that, Mr. O'Sullivan, but just tell me, do you remember what the requirements to become a police reservist were?
Yes, you had to be able to give, I think, 8 hours a week. You had to have no criminal record. You had to be able to drive.
Let me tell you what they are now. So in order to be appointed as a reservist in the South African Police Service, you must be a South African citizen by birth. you must be between the ages of 25 and 40. Then there's a whole other a number of requirements which I won't go into. But then a person may not be appointed under the following circumstances. So you cannot appoint anybody who is in private investigation services and then it breaks them down. So there was no requirement to be a South African citizen when you joined the police reservists?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, having ascertained that, then you now say that you joined this. So at this point, I think you're probably a permanent resident. You join criminal detection, you said.
So when I first joined, I was based at what was then called Halfway House. It's now called Midrand. And we were doing crime prevention duties, which they were pairing us up with permanent members of the service. And you had to wear a uniform and you go out with them and you did crime prevention patrols. Sometimes you'd be doing first attendance at a scene of a crime or a traffic accident or something of that nature. And then I think 2 or 3 months after that happened, I was invited by a colonel, I can't remember his name. He said to me that there's a training course going, we need some reservist detectives. And the training took place in Pretoria. And you had to be able to spend 3 or 4 weeks full-time on this training. Would I be prepared to go? And I said, yes, I would like to do that. So I went.
Okay, I know what you are talking about because reservists have 2 categories. One is functional policing, which is a general policing function that you're talking about, and you only wear uniform there only after you've completed specific training. Then the second category is specialized operational support, which would then be the people who have particular skills or expertise, such as detectives. Now, my first issue is you saying it was only after 3 months instead of the ordinary 3 to 5 years that you can move from functional policing to specialized. Yours only took 3 months?
That's what they asked me at the time. So I don't know what it is today, but then that's what they asked me to do. So I was happy to do that. And then after I completed that training, they assigned me to Boyson's police station. And I went and I worked there as a detective.
Okay. So to now move from this category of specialized operational support, to move to it, you must have had particular skills or expertise that could be used by SAP, perform specific functions within his or her expertise. So you joined essentially functional policing, you were identified for training, and then you moved to the second category, which is only reserved for people with specialized skills where you didn't have any.
So I think at that moment in time, what you've just described now, and I mean, obviously I haven't been a reservist for almost 30 years, so it's a long time ago. But I think the current situation isn't what prevailed back then. And I don't have any copies of what prevailed then, but I don't think it was anything like you just explained.
Okay, so I suppose, you know, coming into a foreign country, you are a permanent resident, you move quickly. Okay, let's leave it. You're saying you don't quite think it was the same. But in your opinion then, Mr. O'Sullivan, don't you see anything strange with a former foreign intelligence operative coming in and, you know, whether the rules were tightened or not, but coming into the country, then over the next couple of years, becomes so deeply embedded in our law enforcement and even intelligence structures of essentially what is another country? I mean, you were a foreign intelligence operative, like we've gathered. Is this normal to you?
I don't know what's normal, but at the time I didn't see anything wrong with it because I wasn't going to be involved in any intelligence activity. And by the way, at the time, I was a long time out of doing any work of anything to do with military or intelligence. I was a long time out of it, probably 10 years or more. So I ceased to be involved in any intelligence activity 10 years before I joined the police service.
But I mean, the training stays with you, right?
Well, I suppose some of it, but as I pointed out before, I was involved in counter operations, so I wasn't involved in spying and stuff like that. So
Okay, I'll come to that. Now, during the training, you mentioned that President Ramaphosa was one of the 1,500 reservists you trained. Who else did you train? I'm sure you may remember some of them. And how did it come about that you got to train President Ramaphosa?
So at the time, President Ramaphosa wasn't the president. He was a businessman. And how he came to be on the course, my understanding, and maybe you need to ask him, but how I understand he became on the course, he was a chairman or director of a company called, if I think, maybe JCI, something like that. So I had bought some properties from JCI, by the way. They were selling stands at a development in Dainfern. And I bought some properties there. The stands were being sold cheaply because it was just started, but as it grew, the value of the properties went up. And I think I bought three stands there. And then what happened, although that had nothing to do with Cyril Ramaphosa, these courses would take place, and I was not involved in the decision as to who should be on the courses. I would just arrive there, and we've got a new course starting, and I would see the students that would be sitting there. So I had no knowledge.
Sorry to interrupt.
But
Sir.
my understanding is that, I'm trying to remember his name now, Mayor Khan, at the time was the CEO of South African Breweries. And Mayor Khan apparently had a meeting with Cyril Ramaphosa, Mr. Ramaphosa, and suggested to him it would be good to demonstrate the need to have more police reservists because crime problems in Johannesburg were becoming a bit hectic. And my understanding is that he decided, oh, this is a good idea. At the time, he was living in Fairlands or in Northcliffe, somewhere there. And he took a decision that he wanted to become a police reservist. Now, after he completed his training, he would have then been assigned to Fairlands Police Station. So I would have not been involved in whatever work he did after that. But I was only responsible for those aspects of his training that sit in here. I was not involved in his firearm training or his marching.
Thank you, Mr. Sutherland. What led to Ms. Sarah Jane Trent terminating her employee in your company?
I think she'd been there about 7 years, and she indicated that she wanted to move on. You know, if you've got a small business, you can reach a point where there's no further room to grow. And she indicated that she wanted to move on.
Okay. Are you still on good speaking terms with her?
Yeah. In fact, when she left, she said, oh, must I hand my laptop back or whatever? And I said, you know what? It's yours. You can keep it. She'd been using it for a number of years.
Okay. I'm going to try and move quite quickly before I run out of time. I'm going back to the permanent residency. You said to Honorable Malema, you had money to purchase property because of the rand-dollar exchange rate. Now, around 1984, the exchange rate was close to parity. I think it was rand pound. It was £1 to R1.60 for most of the decade. Do you still stand by the fact that you raised your money through, you know, those fluctuations in exchange rate?
Yes, in fact, at the time, Chairman, we had a thing going in the country which was intended to induce investors to come into the country, and they called it the financial rand. So I can't remember what the ratio was, but they practically doubled your money. And at the time, when I brought the funds in, the first batch of funds, the exchange rate if I remember, was 190 or 181 or something like that to the pound. And we ended up getting 3 rand to the pound. So it automatically boosted the
Okay.
amount of cash that you brought in. But you could only, you couldn't bring that cash in and then have it as cash. You could only bring it in if you invested. So you had to buy property or you had to invest in a company or something like that. So
Okay.
I brought money in on the financial end.
So let's talk about the investment then. So in 1986, you invest in property in South Africa. In 1989, you apply for permanent residency and you say as a person of independent means. Now, owning property or investing in property in South Africa does not automatically lead to permanent residency. I mean, regardless of how long it's been held. And I think you'll know the criteria for residency. So I think the only exception to that is if your property price or the property value is in excess of 12 million rand in today's money net worth, then you become this financially independent person who can then get a permanent residency. So is this the point that you're making, is that the portfolio that you held at that time was so large that it was only on the basis of it that you got your permanent residency?
No, so it wouldn't be whether you have property or not property. You had to demonstrate that you're a person of independent means. And I don't know what the rules were that they used, but you sit down and you explain what assets you have and what liabilities you have. And they make a decision then that you either are a person of independent means or you're not. And they decided that I was a person of independent means. I had to attend South Africa House in Trafalgar Square in London and be interviewed. And I carried out the interview. And they, I think 3-4 months later, by that stage, I already owned a house here, but I only came as a visitor. And 3-4 months later, I got a phone call from the embassy and they said, okay, your application has been approved. You must come in and pick up your permanent residence certificate. So I went in and I picked up my permanent residence certificate. And then I had to activate it within 3 months. So I had to come and live here within 3 months, which I did.
Okay. I suppose the point that I'm getting to, Mr. O'Sullivan, is that a lot of things either changed for you or you managed to do a lot of things that ordinary people don't get to do, you know? So you were either extremely wealthy for your permanent residence could have been processed that quickly. You moved quickly through the reservist program. Yeah, but I'm just saying there's something there. You were asked yesterday about your knowledge of the situation in South Africa, and I'm linking this to what you were talking about, your work in counter-espionage. So you insisted that you worked largely with the Irish Republic Army, counter-espionage as it relates to the IRA. Am I correct?
I didn't work with the IRA.
I mean, you did counter-espionage work in relation to the IRA.
The counterterrorism activity.
Okay. IRA is the Irish Republic Army, am I right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you're of Irish origin, you lived in the UK, and you did work with the IRA. I would assume.
For the record, I didn't work with the IRA.
What is the English term? Oh, I think I'm losing the word. You were working against the IRA? You were investigating, spying? I'm sorry, I don't know the right word to use.
So the purpose was to make sure, you know, it was to combat the terrorist activities
of the IRA.
Yes, in the early 70s, things were happening. You know, they were setting off bombs here and there.
That's where I'm coming.
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming, Mr. O'Sullivan. So the IRA is long thought to be the armed wing of Sinn Féin. And I'm sure as you were countering the work of the IRA, you would know that. Sinn Féin and the African National Congress have got a very, very long relationship dating back to, I mean, even before the early 80s, but definitely while you were busy with the IRA. You also, I mean, your roots to Ireland, you've spoken about, you had Ireland, Netherlands being some of the most vocal anti-apartheid movements at that time. Now, with you working to counter the IRA, you have never come across the history of South Africa, the African National Congress, and the struggle that was being undertaken in this country.
So I think this was, Chairman, this was put to me yesterday, and I explained that I was very young then, and I was low down on the pecking order. I wasn't involved.
But Mr. O'Sullivan, your work is to know what the IRA is doing, which speaks to all of their tentacles, their Sinn Féins, and
It was operational work. It wasn't intelligence work. It was counter-terrorism. It was operational work.
so you don't need to understand anything about them in the course of doing that.
If I was at this level, and there were other levels, it would be the people up here somewhere, the senior people that would have been involved in all that. I had no knowledge. I didn't even know what the ANC was in those days.
Okay, I find that strange to believe, but it's okay. Not that I'm saying everybody should know about the mighty African National Congress.
Well, of course I know now, but then I had no idea, none whatsoever.
So you never come across, whether it's in Ireland, Netherlands, UK, anti-apartheid movements and what they were, I mean, you had young people, President Mbeki, they were marching in the streets of London. You never heard of such a thing.
I heard about the anti-apartheid movement, so I was aware of that, but I didn't understand the relationship between the ANC and the IRA. I had no knowledge.
But anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, did you understand that relationship?
I remember there was trying to remember the song now. I used to like it. Johanna.
Let's move before you start
remember that.
singing, Mr. O'Sullivan.
I remember that song, and I used to like it. And to be frank with you, my activities had nothing to do with Africa. But to be frank with you, I actually didn't like what I saw going on. Now, and I can tell this little story if you want, but
Please
you
don't.
may not want.
No, I don't. I'm running out of time because the point that I was driving is you said you didn't know anything that was happening.
Yeah, at that time. But later, 10 years later, when I came here for holiday, I started meeting people and I got friends. And I remember having one friend. He's since passed away. He was a lot older than me. And I hired a car. And I invited this person to go with me on a trip to Kruger Park.
Mr. O'Sullivan,
And when we got to, well,
I promise I'd like to hear the story, but I've got my answer. I need to move.
When we got to Kruger Park, I had to make him sit in the back seat because he was black.
Okay.
And if he was to sit in the front seat with me, I would be told that, there's something not right there.
Okay. Mr. O'Sullivan, you've just confirmed that you don't have a security clearance. And when you were talking today, you said it's not the function of someone with no security clearance to be managing informants, speaking about General Mkwanas. So how is it your function to be managing informants when you don't have security clearance?
I'm not a police officer.
So that means that you can do as you please because you're not bound by having a security clearance?
But I don't manage informants.
But you've been telling us about your informers and your
So,
informants and...
with all due respect, just so you can understand the difference, managing informants means that you have an informer who's working in a criminal syndicate and you're paying them and they're bringing information to you and you task them to go and find out this and go and find out that. I never did any of that.
Not sure, because your evidence speaks to people you pay for, hotels, for travel, for this. It's essentially the same thing.
We had people that would contact us and give us information. That's what we call casual informers. They come and give you that information.
Okay.
I never managed any informers whatsoever. The police, crime intelligence manage informers.
Okay. How is the National Commissioner of South African Police Services appointed, Mr. O'Sullivan?
if I understand correctly, it's a decision of the president.
So why do you say in paragraph 90 that Ele pushed his favorite Masemula to be appointed national commissioner if this is a decision of the president?
Sorry, what paragraph is this?
Paragraph 19.
So the reason I say it,
90, sorry.
the reason I say that, and again, you could say that that's probably speculation, but curiously enough, I met him again the day before yesterday, the Honourable Minister of Finance. And in 2022, I sat on a plane with him from Durban to Johannesburg, and we had a long discussion because at that moment in time, there was no permanent commissioner of police. I think it was January or February 2022. And I had a long discussion with him, well, an hour on the plane. And he pointed out to me that they had a short list and these were the people and what.
Sorry, this is the Minister of Finance.
Correct.
Can you give us a name?
He wears a hat. He was
Godongwana.
Pardon?
Minister Godongwana.
Yes. He was on the plane day before yesterday when I flew to Cape Town. And I said, hey, you know, we greeted each other. But the reality of the situation is, I obviously receive information. And the information I received was that they wanted to push General Reed out from the police service. And General Reed, I can't remember what his exact position was, but he oversaw another general that managed procurement within the police service.
Sorry, Mr. O'Sullivan, that's not what I was asking you. I was asking you why you would say, or maybe let me rephrase. So Minister Ele has got no authority to appoint a national commissioner, which sends me to my next question. What role did you play in the appointment of the national commissioner? Because in media interviews, you seemed to be very vocal about the process. What role did you play?
I was approached
By who?
by Johnny Chowkey. So I have to tell the truth because I've sworn to tell the truth. And I don't think I could say anything different to that. I was approached by Bajani Chowkey, who at the time was special advisor to President Ramaphosa. And he informed me that they were looking at appointing a permanent appointee. This was now after Kekle Sitoli had been relieved of his duty. And they asked for informal advice. So I asked, well, if you give me the names of the people, which they did, I said, we'll carry out a lifestyle audit of these people, which we did.
Sorry, who's we?
Forensics for Justice.
Okay.
So we carried out a lifestyle audit, and I then sent a report to Bajani. I think there were 8 names on the list. Pardon? Sorry, I think there were 8 names on the list. And one of the names was Masemola. And one of the names was Mkunazi. There were several other names as well. I mean, if you wait, I can call up the report and we can discuss it. But my recommendation was that there were 6 names on the list that would have been unsuitable for appointment because of their lifestyle.
What would have made Mr. Chauke come to you? What value? Okay, let's move. How is the National Police Commissioner removed, Mr. O'Sullivan?
There's 2 ways. I think the president can remove him, or the president can convene a formal inquiry to determine fitness to hold office.
So an individual like you cannot remove a National Police Commissioner according to the Constitution. So when you said to General Pahlane, I will now turn my attention to having you ejected from your position, what do you mean and how were you going to do that?
I meant by that the criminal charges would result in him being removed from his position.
So do you make it a norm to go around intimidating people and even to the extent of attempting to extort people like General Pahlane, people like General Masemula, the list goes on, the attorneys for Krecha, the Amapungane journalist, why do you do that? I mean, I've got text and text of messages that you sent here to General Pahlane. He came before us and he gave evidence that you have been threatening him. Amongst the things you said, if you do not take action against Munu now, I'm turning my attention back to you. You fix Munu and Kresha, I will lose interest in you. If you don't, I'll be all over you like a bag-fitting suit. Hey, Pahlane, if you think this is a dream, you better wake up. At some point, you, who did you call? It was Mr. Duplessis. I think Mr. Duplessis, you said, hi, scum, where is it now? But I think you get the general sense. And I mean, we've got the evidence also from Mr. Ngabinde. What is happening here, Mr. O'Sullivan?
Well, I suppose one could say that conduct might not be as professional as it could be. But when you're dealing with corruption and criminals, and there was no doubt in my mind by that stage that I was, that's the way it would work. And I've got somebody, for example, trying to kill me. And I'm using as an example, you talk Radovan Krejci's attorneys. Obviously, they weren't trying to kill me, but their client was. In fact, I think there were 6 or 7 multiple attempts where he tried to have me murdered. And I've got sworn statements to that effect. And the attorneys were protecting him. And the attorneys were making false allegations against me.
Sorry, Mr. O'Sullivan, but you see, to General Pahlane, you say you will do as I please, as I want, otherwise I will turn my attention to you. Is that not extortion?
No, I don't think that's what I said. I think I said what you need to do is take action. So what was happening at that time?
No, you said you fix Munu and Kresha and I will lose interest in you. If you don't, I will be all over you like a bag-fitting suit. So did you not then go out and manufacture all these allegations against Pahlane so that you could be the bag-fitting suit?
No, I didn't.
And you don't think this was extortion either?
No.
Okay. Because I'm gonna run out of time, I want to move to this final one. It was one of your emails also to General Pahlane. You said to them in an email as far back as 2016, and finally, I should mention that I have now formally notified the British and the US Secret Services that the leadership of SAPS is knowingly supporting Al-Qaeda by protecting Al-Qaeda money laundering in South Africa. As your systematic corruption-driven failures are a threat to the Western world. Enjoy your weekend, Munu, and don't any of you or your accomplices dream of taking unlawful action against me. You'll wake up in a nightmare. Now, you have been pains to tell us that you left intelligence services, but in this email, which was 5th February 2016, I think I've seen, does this not demonstrate that you still have ties with British intelligence services?
No, because in fact, you can go online now and you can file a report. You can go online and file a report, for example, with British. And by the way, a docket was opened against me for that. And I had to give an explanation as to who I notified. And I provided that explanation. And it was done online. So you can go online and you can send information like that.
Okay. And then your relationship with the US Secret Service?
It's an online portal.
Okay. So what then did you expect these foreign intelligence services to do with that information once you'd filed it online?
Well, in fact, I didn't expect them to do anything. What I expected General Pahlane to do was to take action against General Munu. That's what I expected to happen.
Do you find it proper, Mr. O'Sullivan, that you come into this country, you seek permanent residency, I'm not sure if ultimately citizenship, then instead of going, for example, to the South African State Security Agency when you have problems with the higher echelons of our police service, you think that the right thing to do is to report to foreign intelligence services?
So the report to those two intelligence services was in respect of the Al-Qaeda link.
Did you report it to the South African State Security Agency?
The South African State Security Agency at that time was captured.
According to you?
I think according to everybody.
Okay. My last question in these 3 minutes that I've got, you said, Mr. O'Sullivan, to Honorable Ola, you would not,
Sorry, to who?
Honorable Ola, sorry, the gentleman behind me.
Sorry, thank you.
You said to him that you would not recognize a grabber if you saw it. Would you recognize dismantled pieces of a grabber if you saw it?
No.
Okay.
I've never seen a grabber in my life.
So
I hear about them, but I've never seen one.
all right. So, I mean, there's allegations that are being made, and to some extent, I think some of them come from General Mkhwana's, that on or around the 31st of January 2017, you attempted to secure, formally it's called a cell phone interception agent in the UK. You planned to have it disassembled in Liberia, and it would enter South Africa through various ports of entry in pieces, thereafter reassembled. Did you ever attempt to purchase a grabber, dismantle it in the UK and bring it into the country unlawfully?
Never in my life.
Okay,
Sorry, Chairman, are you saying that General Mkwasi gave that evidence? Because
it's in piece and bits everywhere, including from the city of Johannesburg, where it is alleged that General Sibiya purchased a grabber, and this grabber would have come from you facilitating it through illegal smuggling in a dismantled fashion. Okay, I think maybe I could stop there. No, I've got one question in the minute. In one of your paragraphs, you said, paragraph 57, you contend that there is a third force. Sorry, I'm paraphrasing, but it's on paragraph 37. There's this third force that's working with all of these forces and their reach extends to the National Assembly. What did you mean by that?
okay, so what we have a situation where, and I think it's common cause now, that there are certain, when I say this, the National Assembly, I'm talking about Parliament. And I think it's a fact of life that if we turn the clock back, the intelligence services were being managed by a minister, David Mkhlobo. And while David Mkhlobo was the Minister of Intelligence, he was running a parallel intelligence organization.
Through Parliament?
But he's a member of Parliament, so his conduct reaches into Parliament.
Can you give us any evidence of that? I mean, you're literally saying you're casting aspersions on the National Assembly. So if there's a third force operating within the National Assembly, we'd like to know.
Okay, so I do believe I'm going to refer to an email that I sent on the 6th of June, 2018 to the National Prosecuting Authority. And because of my lack of trust for the intelligence service in this country, which I consider to be captured, and because of my lack of trust for the police service at that time, which I considered to be captured, I didn't know who to send it to. So I sent it to the Director of Public Prosecutions in Gauteng. And it's a sworn statement by an individual And he sets out in detail. And by the way, I didn't invite him to come and tell me this. He approached me. He sets out in detail and he provides evidence with bank statements. And he lists the names of all the people that they were carrying out this unlawful surveillance on
Thank you so much.
in the National Assembly. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. O'Sullivan. Thank you so much.
Who is the next speaker?